Now, these vehicles were actually going through La Crosse, some of them were coming from Minnesota, so they were a mixture of the desert camouflage and also green camouflage. So I'm thinking that they were like National Guard units that were heading somewhere, probably east.
Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Bob, is this the Bob I think it is?
Yes, it is.
Is this military Bob?
Yep, from South Dakota. Yep.
So what's going on? What are we looking at today?
Well, I was going to give you a heads up. I went back to where I was originally from here a couple of weeks ago, at the last week of April, excuse me. And when I was coming back, I was on Interstate 90. And from the Illinois-Wisconsin border all the way up by Toma and La Crosse, there was a good-sized military convoy, and they're all heading the same direction. I'm figuring anywhere from 200 to 300 vehicles. And even after I crossed into Minnesota, there was more vehicles coming from Minnesota heading the same direction. And they were all logistics vehicles, not tanks or anything, but logistics vehicle like your Hummers with a water buffalo in the back, and your vehicles all logistics vehicles like the military version of a semi with a flatbed. This is the kind of vehicles that we were running, and they're all heading south. And that I thought maybe an exercise is going on in McCoy or Douglas. That's up by Toma, but no. Now, these vehicles were actually going through La Crosse, some of them were coming from Minnesota. And they weren't all green. They were a mixture of the desert camouflage, which is the tan that you have up right now, and also green camouflage, like the standard. So I'm thinking that they were basically like National Guard units that were heading somewhere, probably east. Because I-90 turns when you get down by Chicago and you head towards the East Coast on I-90, if that was their path.
So, and by the way, did you see all of the people that sent in videos of the generators being moved around? Specifically, we have now multiple people from around the country showing us these huge convoys, and it's not the same freeways either. They're moving around generators and logistical things like these mobile tents that were on huge wide load things. They're moving around specialty gear. That's pretty much what I can say to the East Coast. Why would they be moving around that? Go ahead.
They have been building up the East Coast for a while, even the military flights. I've been watching Monkey Works, which he's former military himself, I believe Air Force. He has noticed heavy lifts running the East Coast, and most of your intelligence planes, your P-8s, your P-6s, certain planes, your R-130s or whatever they're called, all the intel planes have been pushing hard on the East Coast, basically from the edge of Canada down to Florida, the edge of Florida. and they've been running hard. So I don't know if there's possibly a threat on the coastline that they know about, but who knows?
So
the other thing I've noticed is when we talked a while back ago about the ships being loaded in San Diego, and you had pictures of those ones. I forget the name of the ship. That ship actually landed and got unloaded in the Netherlands. I've caught video of it and seen the equipment coming off of it. So that ship that came out of San Diego is now over in Europe.
So I want to remind people what you are talking about, because Bob called in before. Bob is he's former military, and I guess you're always military. So, but he basically said, hey, when you look out, this is before all of this started. This was before February 24th, and it was a few days before, and we said we think something's about to go down. Because the U.S. is deploying. They deployed all of their carriers fully loaded. There were satellite images, fully loaded with planes. Everybody was being deployed. The Fugel family, anybody who knew somebody was in the military, they were deploying. And we were like, what the hell is about to happen here? There were shots of these boats getting loaded. Bob actually called in and gave us all the information. He was able to decipher all of the codes that were on the different vehicles. Told us, this means this is part of this squad, this part and everything else. And he said, you really got to worry. And before this, he called and said, you really got to worry when they start loading these kinds of boats up. And they were the logistical boats that held all the supplies. And basically this certain kind of boat, when those go out, those can actually support an offensive for so many days. For instance, a boat this size loaded to the brim could support an offensive for 30 days straight. And those boats were what were being loaded. And then, of course, right after that is when all this started happening. So Bob is now saying that the logistics, the same kind of things, but on land, are now being pushed around the United States, which in my mind verifies a lot of the stuff that I've been saying. And from all of the information from the Fugel fam, they're loading up the East Coast. They are moving things all around. And this is way more than just like kind of drills being done or moving it from base to base. These are, 50, 60, 70 mile long convoys of all the same things. They're moving around generators, checkpoints, all sorts of things. What the hell is happening? But of course, nothing is happening in the majority of people's eyes. Everybody says it's always nothing. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, no, I agree with you. And what in the military terms eyes is called prepositioning of equipment. And unlike what the media has spread out about Europe and how that supposed convoy was 40 miles long and all this, we don't work that way. The logistics are part of everything. And if you don't have, the phrase, you don't have beans and bullets, you can't do anything. Well, we understand that, and the military trains for it. And even your National Guard units, I went up to a certain place called Sioux Falls today, and you had F-16s touch and going all day long while I was up there. So, they're preparing for something. They ain't playing.
Which, by the way, it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to run those F-16s for even a matter of hours. You don't just do it unless you're really training for something. They do train a lot with them.
Yeah, they were doing a lot.
But yeah. Well, so Bob, and let me ask you this. Do you believe that as far as your view on Vlad country, do you think they're a bunch of bumbling idiots and they're really just bumbling their way through this?
It's hard to say right now. I think the military, I'm talking our military, with the, technical advantages of our technology, there are a lot of us vets have noticed, the ones that, it's been 30 years since I was in the Corps, nearly. What we're noticing is the equipment and how it's said it's better and it's been modernized and all this. We're not seeing that. We're not seeing that right now. Our stuff with the M1A1 or A3 or 2 or whatever sub package they have on it now, it's been battle proven. But the other stuff on the other side really hasn't really gone through a lot of the stuff. It's actually been destroyed since 1991. And if you look at that and you kind of go, wait a minute here, what the heck is going on here? You kind of wonder, but at the same time, with the nukes and everything else, you have to wonder about it. Because is he willing to pull something or do something? God only knows. And in my heart, I pray that he doesn't. But at the same time, people are starting to get wised up to the fact it could happen. And within the last couple of days, I actually ran into a gal at a grocery store up in Sioux Falls. And she was wondering why I was buying cases of this and this and that. And I was not buying 1 or 2 cans. I was buying a case. And I told her, my parents lived through the Depression. And I believe in keeping my stuff stocked up and being ready for a bad day. Take care of your family. And she looked at me and she said, I'm starting to spread the word around. And how do you store your stuff? I said, if it ain't in cans and it's dried goods, it goes in 5-gallon buckets. And she just was blown out of the water with the way I said it. I said, you can put a sealed lid and it's good for how many years? You've got to be smart about it. And this woman was like, wow. I said, plus I'm former military and I'm sensing something ain't right in Denmark. So, people are starting to wake up to a point, but there's too many distractions going on right now. Way too many.
Yeah, that's 100% true. Now, I guess, and one more thing. Do you think that how they said that they put 40 miles of their tanks and Humvees, do you think that that's any military, especially a modernized one or one of the big nation states, the big 3 countries, do you think anybody would just drive 40 miles of vehicles down a straight road? You've seen that, and probably we would see that in the Middle East in like villages and things, because what they're worried about is the underground kind of explosions. But why would you do that when you're fighting a country that has access to drones, satellite imagery, all that kind of stuff? Would you ever do that as a military? Would anybody just drive 40 miles of vehicles down a single road? Does that sound like it makes sense?
No, but also, if they don't learn from history, because for the simple fact, if you look through history from, per se, 1941 to now, Mother Nature has so much control. The Germans screwed up doing it, so did actually the Russians screw up and did it in that time frame. I mean, the area of the world that they're playing with has always been thorn in a military side because of not just because of the weather, because of how the fighting conditions are and the terrain. If you look back through history, even World War II, you will see that on both sides it was a fight of attrition. It really was. I mean, around certain parts of UKR, as you call it, the Russians were handed their backsides after they took land, and vice versa from the Germans in that time frame. I mean, it's insane. Well,
I get what you're saying. Basically, you would do that in the case of, so one thing that was talked about before this happened, oops, sorry about that, guys. One thing that was talked about before this happened was the fact that it was muddy and it was gross, and they were waiting until they had better conditions. So that one road may have been the only option, possibly, as far as if they drove on a different one, it would have been too muddy, and how heavy these vehicles are, it could have sank. It could have had rain. They could have had mud. They could have had any kind of thing. And they're like, well, the risk and benefit, solution here is like, well, we drive through there, we might lose half of our vehicles because they're going to be vulnerable, like ducks in a row, literal ducks in a row. But that's what we have to do. So I get that. That is something I never thought of, as far as that's common sense, a reason why they may have actually done that.
Well, and plus taking the fact also that that military over there, like, especially with what I was with, the Marine Corps, land, sea, and air, okay, it's joint operations, and they're all coordinated. The Army has the same thing. The Air Force, the Navy, we all group together and we all train together. Well, if they're not doing that over in that area of the world for a particular reason, because they think their spearhead will go in and just do what it did back in the 40s, that could be part of the problem that they're running into, is their way of doing things hasn't been modernized. And if they haven't learned from the lessons of the past, they're repeating the problems. And who knows? I still personally hope that we don't see all HELL break free. I really don't. But God only knows how these politicians and other individuals will take advantage of the situation. And we're the ones left holding the bag and paying the bill.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for calling in today, and thank you for your educated opinion on this, and I really do appreciate you, and thank you again for your service. As always, thank you, and thank you. Real quick, I do want to remind you, if you haven't already checked out solar generators, I'd highly recommend it because they are silent. Our whole studio is powered by Energy. If you don't know what an Energy solar generator is, there is a waiting list on these. They are so coveted right now, but that list just got shorter. They just shortened the time to ship these out. So make sure to go over and check out, especially now. So you can actually get an Energy Flex 1500 right now for the first time. They have added an actual discount, $100 off the main unit. And if you want, you can actually look into getting an EMP shield that actually can protect this on the input and on the output side. So if anything happens, this is protected. Greatest part, this is absolutely silent. You cannot hear it. It is literally quieter than a desk fan. It's quieter than a box of cereal because it's literally silent. There is no sound, why does that matter? If you have an SHTF situation happen, you are going to have everyone within a block hearing you if you have a gas-powered generator. Now, the coolest part about this is that it's also expandable. Normally, when you buy some of their competitors, you are stuck with the battery that is built inside of it, and once that battery degrades or dies, you are ending up buying an entire new unit, which in the future, it's going to be very hard. Also, you can expand up to 96 batteries. They all stack, and they can also stack sideways. Not only that, it can charge extremely fast. It is just one of the best, high quality produced solar generator out there. Marfooglenews.com/energy. Again, now the wait for it is the least it's been in the last year. So make sure to put in the code Marfoogle. That way you get your discount and you end up helping us out at the same time. Now, they also have a discount on the packs, on the kits. So make sure to go check out that link. It will show you all of the different discounts available. It is definitely a good thing to have as a backup.
Feed the haters to the alligators. Your way or the highway, see you later. B.O.D. is the homie and Mr. Vader. If it wasn't for you, I would never made it. Whole city's covered by the cremated. Now they listen to what we were saying. Doesn't matter if the manufacturer or created. But now